Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. So today I have a special episode of the Working Money Channel. Guys, I got a chance to interview the CEO and co-founder of Jackal Labs. They are a blockchain-powered solution solving today's complex problems, and they deal in cybersecurity running on the blockchain. Here are just some of the products that they offer, and their team. Patrick Dunlop, the co-founder and CEO. For those of you guys who do not know, he has been building on blockchain technologies for a while, building blockchain-enabled data infrastructure and cybersecurity solutions. And he actually had some positive things to say about the Ripple and XRP lawsuit, specifically with relations to their industry. So without further ado, here's the interview. So here I am with Patrick Dunlop, founder and CEO of Jackal Labs. Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and Jackal Labs in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Patrick. I'm one of the co-founders of Jackal Labs, where we build and deploy application-specific blockchains. So we build blockchains purpose-built for a specific use case. Often our use case is cybersecurity stuff. So either data security, or we're looking at things where we want very secure permission systems. We're starting to delve a little bit into supply chain document storage and things along those lines, and verifying, creating immutable sources of truth using blockchain tech. So that's predominantly what we do. My background, I got into blockchain in the digital forensics and investigations industry. So what we were doing before this is we were actually building and deploying different techniques to actually track cyber criminals who exploited liquidity pools back in kind of 2021. And that's kind of how I got introduced to it. So I have a really deep technical knowledge of what's going on. And we went from that, and then we wanted to build like blockchain-based tools for legal teams and investigators for e-discovery, which is a whole other industry. So we were building stuff like that on Polygon. Then we found some holes in the market relating to decentralized and distributed data storage, so like Google Cloud or Amazon S3, but having that instead of being on a centralized server, using the blockchain as a backend for permissions and all that good stuff. So it's been quite the ride getting here, and yeah, just good Canadian team.
Interesting. Do you find that well, you're probably going to say, yeah, is there more of a need for cybersecurity now than there was, let's say, even 5 years ago?
100%. It's kind of like the landscape evolves every day, right? And it's kind of a moving target for cybersecurity, and it's a little bit difficult to stay on top of everything. It's specifically difficult when you're an organization and every single individual in your organization is usually the attack vector. So often a lot of data breaches, and you look in the news today, I'm sure it'll say XYZ company was hacked and all their data was leaked onto the open internet, and everyone's passwords and stuff like that are just out there visible for anyone, right? So it's a very difficult thing to manage because each employee is an attack vector. So if you have employees that are using email, for example, on other platforms, and that platform gets hacked, and they were using their work email for something that they shouldn't be using it for, and it's not really in their risk profile or anything like that, it's a very difficult thing. It's more about training humans than it is actually the code, which is interesting in itself. But yeah,
Interesting. So
always a need for cyber.
it's all connected, I guess, and you're probably seeing there's a lot more integration now with so many, like you said, with so many different applications, that the need for to prevent it from getting hacked is probably a lot greater.
Yeah, it's you always need new tools, right? If the cyber criminals are usually the first people to adopt things, whether that's blockchain technology, whether that's robbing trains, right? So
Right.
it's always cyber criminals are always on the bleeding edge of innovation and try to use things that are kind of being innovated to try to rake in organizations. And data is worth more than gold, so it's an interesting space. It's definitely an interesting space.
You finding that a lot of crypto exchanges are getting hacked? Do you guys provide solutions for something like that for people trading cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so for exchanges, we've done work with exchanges before. It's usually bugs in the code where people are able to withdraw before things hit the bank accounts and things along those lines. So it's usually just bugs on that side of things. But from hacks, it's usually the end user that's getting hit through something called the SIM swap, actually. So, for example, it's kind of crazy when you think about this, actually. Your entire digital life is backstopped by your phone number. Whenever you sign into something, it says, okay, we'll send you a text and it'll have a code, and then you have to use the code to get in. if you take another step back and abstract that a little bit, that means that the middle schooler working the Rogers booth in your strip mall, we're up here in Canada, so Rogers is our big phone carrier. That is the person that is the guardian of your entire digital life, whether that's your bank accounts, tax accounts, um, credit cards, loans, anything like that, cryptocurrency exchanges, whether that's centralized exchanges. Decentralized exchanges, not so much, because usually you have your own public and private keys and you manage that yourself with a hardware wallet or a software wallet in your browser. So it's always interesting space for that side of things. And it's kind of we think the reason why we chose to build in this direction and kind of use blockchain technology for things outside of finance, specifically in the area that we think it's a better backend for data permissions. So who has access to what data at what time? It's using the same technologies, like who has what tokens at what time or who has what money at what time. So it's a great tool and it's a great use case for all kinds of different adaptations. It's just about which ones we think are going to have the largest market opportunity, the largest impact, and the pie is big enough. We just have to continue to grow the pie and make sure that we continue to make steps with the boring cryptography stuff and continue to iterate to make sure that this stuff comes to market and then finally becomes something that's mass adopted.
Interesting. So when you guys, you deal with cybersecurity, but you're also talking about data storage. Is that right? Do you guys do?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how does that work with
So
Jackal?
yeah, so predominantly we build and deployed an application-specific blockchain for data storage. So that means that we made a kind of like a big public cloud environment, but with the privacy and cybersecurity posture of having just files in your desk where only the end user with their private keys can access their data. This is pretty fascinating, and it's using blockchain technology for a different use case rather than kind of transferring money or transferring different things. But our flagship product is the Jackal protocol. So it's a public cloud environment where we have a validator set that makes sure that the permissions for the storage of who accesses what files at what time and make sure that's rock hard when it comes to the blockchain security posture on that. The other thing is we have a decentralized physical infrastructure network. And what this means is we have hundreds of storage providers all around the world that store other people's data and they get incentivized to do so. They can't access that data because the blockchain governs who can actually hold the encryption keys to decrypt the data. So we get really high digital privacy and security posture in a scalable cloud environment like a Google Cloud or something that everyone else would be used to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so how is data accessed? Did we go over that?
How is data accessed? Yeah, traditionally or on our system?
We can talk a little bit about both. How you guys
Yeah.
can kind of safeguard, I guess, against maybe traditional ways of data accessibility.
Yeah. It makes total sense. So basically when you look at how data storage right now, if you take a file and you store it in the cloud, quote unquote, that just means that you're storing it on someone else's computer, whether that's Microsoft's computer or Amazon's computer or Alibaba Cloud's computer, depending on where you are in the world.
Right.
So that's kind of how that works. So you give them a file and they store it for you, and then you can access it from anywhere, which is fascinating and is great technology to begin with, right? The way that those companies govern who can have access to your personal files is usually managed by a singular server in their backend. So it's like the centralized choke point of failure and attack vector, whether that's for cyber criminals, internal threats. And they also have the ability to do any stuff with your data, right? So they can run AI models on top of it to do machine learning types of things. They can leak stuff by accident. We've had situations where really large data leaks and data hacks have happened for large companies in cloud environments. So that's kind of how the industry works right now. Is you store your stuff on someone else's computer and they decide who has access to that file. By abstracting away from the company and using a blockchain for the permission management rather than a single server, that means that a bunch of validators, so we have about 100 of them all around the world, determine who has access to what data based on the algorithms. So to make sure that you have self-custody and self-ownership. And what's one of the best things about blockchain technology to begin with? It gives the power back to the user. You have self-sovereignty, you have ownership, you have control. So any data stored on Jackal, we can't even access it. Only you can, because the validator set determines who can have access to that, and that's determined by the cryptography in the blockchain.
So I'm interested, do you find it hard to get new clients on board with this new type of cybersecurity, or do they understand even the back end? Are they skeptical about using cryptocurrency technology or blockchain technology or whatever it is? Because you know how it is, right? With traditional companies, they tend to get a little leery when they hear crypto, especially even now, let alone 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So how are you finding it? I'm sure it's probably a lot easier for, for example, if you're approaching a company that's already kind of tech forward, but for other companies, what's that like?
I think you'd be surprised, right? So EY, IBM, a lot of big consulting firms and large companies, they're using blockchain technology for all kinds of things, whether it's supply chain, whether it's, I think IBM has a food trust product where they use it's Internet of Things technology to make sure that you can determine that the temperature of food when it's in transit stays according to the health guidelines, which is awesome. So stuff like that, they're using it all the time. It's really about how it's marketed, right? So the difficulty of Jackal is we wanted to abstract away all of the permissions to the blockchain itself so we can access your files. That's where you have to invoke other technology, right? So you have to invoke cryptocurrency for incentives because open source technology is about having wonderful systems that with very open source and public goods with very specific economics. And this is where you have to enter a token. So it's a very hard pitch to a law firm, for example, to say, okay, to use Jackal, you have to go to Coinbase and then buy Cosmos's Atom, and then you have to transfer that to Osmosis, which is a decentralized exchange. You have to swap for Jackal, then you have to IBC transfer it over to Jackal, purchase a storage account, then you can upload data. That's not a great user experience, and it's absolutely terrible to be frank. But that was the stage of anything. Any innovation always starts this way. And the wallet's UX needs to get better. The payment rails have to get better. The velocity of capital needs to get better from bridging from traditional finance to Web3. So that stuff is all really important. So in the meantime, we build things for specific clients. We call them like Web 2.5 bridges, where you have an API, will be the centralized exchange for your data, and then we'll provide you access to it so you get the benefits of having distributed data storage, verifiability using blockchain technology, a pretty high, it's still arguably one of the highest digital privacy and security postures out there. And so you get the benefits of that, but you don't get like the true self-custody. And some people don't care about that value proposition, but others do, right? So in the traditional Web 2 world, a lot of people like to use our APIs. That's predominantly, it's just using Web 2 technology to access Web 3 technology. That's how they use it. But in Web 3, this is where it gets very beautiful, right? So applications or decentralized applications built on this technology, they can access Jackal directly. So let's say that you have what's a NFT marketplace, for example, where you have all these media files for each NFT and they need to be stored somewhere. Instead of storing it on an Amazon server or a Google server, you can use a smart contract that can call the Jackal protocol and deliver you data storage, which is pretty fascinating.
Very
pretty
cool.
Beautiful.
Very cool. So what kind of businesses utilize Jackal?
Yeah, so right now we have about 85 in total.
Wow.
So they're all predominantly Web3 businesses are a lot easier to sell, if I'm going to be honest with you, because it's one of the most difficult things with Web3 in general, right? Is there's this knowledge gap. So either our options is we go after companies with a lot of data, but you have to help them cross this knowledge gap to understand why this technology is valuable and how it can really help their business, right? Or option number two is we just go to people who are already building it on this technology and integrate with them directly. So for us, that's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel because it's a lot easier for them to understand the value proposition. They understand why it's wonderful and why it's useful and why it's good to have scalable off-chain data storage managed and accessed on-chain. So yeah, it's a lot of NFT marketplaces, decentralized social, decentralized music applications, anything that has meaningful off-chain data that they need to store, but have Web3 applications built into them.
Interesting. So Jackal offers both hot and cold storage solutions?
Yeah, so Jackal offers predominantly hot storage, and there's other applications like Filecoin or ARweave that they more specialize in cold storage. And the difference between the two really is hot storage is kind of what you're used to with Dropbox or Google Cloud, where you have quick access. It comes it's always readily available for the end user. For cold storage, it's more like archiving, and this is something that more larger businesses do, or people with large data sets, like the Internet Archive or Wikipedia, or like your very, very, very old Facebook messages or old emails. They put it into something called cold storage, and it takes a while for you to get those files back, sometimes up to 24 hours. So that's kind of the difference between the two. We specialize in hot storage, but we're looking to also offer cold storage in the near future as well, which is exciting.
Interesting. Did you guys or you said that you guys are running on the Cosmos blockchain, right? Using the Atom token?
Yeah, we have our own blockchain. So this is actually a great conversation about the different types of blockchains, because this is where it gets really fascinating, right? So in the development communities of blockchains, there's these two competing thoughts. There's the monolithic blockchain where it's like Ethereum or Bitcoin or different blockchains where they say this is going to be the world's computer, and then we're going to build on top of this, and then that's how that's going to work. Then there's the modular application specific blockchain thesis, where every app should be its own blockchain, which is interesting, right? I don't know if any of your listeners are big Ethereum users, but you'll remember in the last bull market, the gas got so expensive to do things. It's like you're paying $60 per transaction because so many people were trying to use that. So many applications were trying to use that monolithic blockchain. So it's really great for specific use cases, but it's not great for every use case. So in this thesis on Cosmos and Avalanche and Polkadot and some other ecosystems like that, the thesis is every app should be its own chain, and they can all integrate directly with each other, and we can do cross-chain transfers and without multi-sigs.
So what you're
which
saying,
is
so what you're saying is the interoperability of it is probably of utmost importance.
Interoperability is really important, right? So if you go off, say, I want to build a blockchain, you can build a blockchain, which is great, but then you are building this walled garden that you can't interact with other blockchains. You can't participate in the greater economy of blockchains, basically, right? So that's awesome for specific use cases if you have really a strong product and you have a strong business development team, and it's you don't really need to integrate with other blockchains because you're solving a different use case. And those are the two theories. If you want to kind of take it back, I don't know if you remember mainframe technology. It's like so back in the day, like early computing, there's these mainframes, there's these massive computers, and then there was something that came along with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and they came with the personal computer, right? Like the PCs that we're on right now. Today, they both still have use cases, but they do very different things. Mainframes are still predominantly used by banks. So a lot of bank stuff and bank settlement happens on these mainframes that are sitting in the basement of IBM. And that's predominantly the use case for that. And they like it. It's using really old programming languages, but it does its job and it's very secure for what it does. The modular app chain thesis is a little bit more about PCs, right? So if I want to do work on a computer and if I want to game on a computer, those are usually very different computers. Or if I want to do video production or something like that, they all have different specs that they need to do the job that you want to do with it, right? So that's kind of the two different theses, and it really depends on what you want to build and where you want to build it. If you need like really high economic security, then Ethereum or building your own really large chain might be the way to go with that mainframe technology stack. If you are looking to build something like data storage where we don't really need that much economic security, or we can lend economic security from the Cosmos hub or lend it from Bitcoin doing other things, then we don't really need that, and we build an application for something outside of finance.
So how is it different? I know you probably have guessed a lot of my viewers are interested in XRP and the XRP Ledger. How is it different than the XRP Ledger, for example, for performing a similar task, creating something similar to what you guys are doing? Why not use the XRPL, for example?
Yeah. So XRP is usually predominantly built for one thing and one thing specifically, and that is cross-country money or cross-bank money transfers, really. That's like their end goal from my outside view looking in. I'm not very big in that community, so I don't really know it that well, to be honest. But when I look at XRP, the predominant use case that they're going for is specifically international money transfers, because right now that industry sucks. So if I want to send someone in the Philippines money, I have a few options. Option number one is I go to a bank and I say, hey, I want to send a wire transfer. That would be $50 right off the bat. And then every single bank that it touches on the way to the Philippines is going to take a cut of that. With the XRP protocol and what they're looking to offer is to do that within, I don't know how long the block times are, and I'm not sure if it's proof of work or proof of stake, but let's say like a minute for like a very nominal fee. That's pretty great, right? And that's a really, really good use case for them, from my understanding.
Consensus. It's consensus.
Yeah, so it's like it's a proof of stake consensus, I'm assuming, or validator side consensus. Regardless, it's the value proposition of that for that specific use case. I think it's wonderful. Why we wouldn't build on something like that is because that entire blockchain is built for that use case, right? And
Yeah.
it's not really built for us to. We need.
There are actually developers who are building NFT capabilities and smart contracts through the hooks amendment. So there are there are other use cases for it. I know what you mean though. Ripple, for example, is the biggest developer on the XRP ledger, and they have predominantly. I mean, it was kind of the first use case for XRP. It's kind of branded, or at least there was that push at the beginning for it to be XRP cross-border payments, but there are there are a lot more use cases now being developed on the XRP ledger.
Yeah, as soon as you have smart contracts, anyone can build really anything, right? Assuming that there's enough block space and the transaction fees are cheap enough. So anywhere that you add smart contract capabilities, the first thing that's going to be built out is like NFT marketplaces. So everyone's going to come and they're going to build all kinds of cool little things, right? Lending marketplaces, things like that, on that chain. The reason why we wouldn't want to do that, and we actually built on another blockchain before. So we built on Polygon, which is one of like the fastest Ethereum layer twos, was what it was built to be, right? We ran into upper bound. We kind of hit ceilings on specific things relating to what we wanted to build. And we hit a point where we needed to alter the underlying blockchains for us to build the best product possible.
Right.
So we wanted like the file trees for user accounts to be encrypted and put directly into the blockchain itself. We wanted a storage module just for data storage and managing storage deals and making sure that all the storage providers continue to store data.
Cool.
That was built into the blockchain. So for use cases that are this dramatically different, and they're really like apples to oranges, and we're not really a finance application, it wouldn't be a good place for us to build. But for other applications, whether it's NFTs, whether it's lending protocols or perpetual trading and things like that, that definitely has the bandwidth to support something like that for sure.
For sure. I'm going to turn to just the politics, I guess, and maybe the legal aspect of it for a second. Yeah. Now that XRP has clarity in the US, has this helped or given hope, I guess, to Jackal Labs in any way? Has anything really changed based on the XRP verdict now that we know the SEC has said it's not considered a security? Now, I know you guys are a Canadian company, so it might not affect you necessarily, but I mean, I guess, I don't know, maybe it does, depending on how much American business you do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. What I hope to happen, and I'm really happy for the whole XRP situation because I think it's just, and it's to go back. I think they were the second blockchain other than Bitcoin to ever be fully deployed, if I remember correctly. Like they've been around for a long time, and going back and trying to regulate something back then, when there's no regulatory clarity, is very difficult for founders to operate, right? And I think they did the right thing with giving that regulatory clarity to Ripple specifically. The thing that I worry about in legislation in general is blanket legislating everything, right? So that means that everyone is going to be regulated relative to all cryptocurrency is one thing. It's just a crypto, and a crypto is a crypto is a crypto. That is a really big issue because every single app, every single blockchain, they all do different things, right? So that's like going to the agriculture industry and saying everything is the same, or just saying like the forestry industry is the same as orange groves, is the same as all these different things. And the the situations that they have to they operate in are very, very different. So I really hope that I think regulation is important, but I hope that they start small and they incrementally move through the ecosystem. So start with stablecoins. Stablecoins probably should be a money market. It makes sense, right? It's all kinds of different currencies that are pegged to different other currencies coming from the real world. It's probably smart for that to be a money market because it is a money market, right? You're just a digital form of the US dollar or the yen or something else, right? And to go industry by industry, if you said that every crypto is a security, that means if I built a e-signature DocuSign type product on Jackal, every time that you send a file to be signed, that's a taxable event. That doesn't really make sense. That's like saying every time I send an email, you should pay taxes, right? It's called gas for a reason because I truly believe that a lot of these specific tokens or commodities used for specific activity and they're needed to do actions. Right? It's kind of like how electricity is needed to do actions. And it's interesting in that sense, right? But at the end of the day, I hope there is regulation. I am happy with the Ripple decision and I hope they move incrementally, right? The thing that I'm frustrated about a little bit is you have regulators that are the amount of money you could reinvest in Ripple's case or reinvest it into protocol development or business development for you to get a better technology implemented into a traditional finance system that is pretty I don't know if you've ever been on like the Wells Fargo website or the TD website. It's like these things haven't really iterated in a very long time, and it's time for that to wake up a little bit. But you have very, very expensive lawyers arguing with each other the similarities between a decentralized blockchain and a Florida orange grove. And that doesn't really make too much sense to me, right? To determine whether or not it's a security. It's interesting to say the least.
Interesting. I got one more question for you, Patrick. What are your
Absolutely.
thoughts on what Ripple is doing for crypto and the blockchain industry as a whole? I guess in some regards, the lawsuit, but just as an industry, what do you think? Because I mean, they're a company with very deep pockets. Do you think they have a big influence?
I think the trailblazers help everyone, right? And my viewpoint is the optimum strategy for this entire industry is just win and help win, right? And at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of very tribal nature of blockchain technology because the users are also usually financially motivated and aligned with the products that they are very early adopters of. Like, I want this to do well. Like, I'm spending time in this community, and I'm one of the earliest users, and I'm helping with feedback, and I might even be helping with development, right? Because it's all open source. I think that the larger players really help the smaller players and kind of give us a little bit of an umbrella for us to continue to innovate. And they have the pockets to protect us as well, right? That's the one thing. But I honestly think that everyone that was that early to the game, it's the trailblazers for the industry at the end of the day, right? And it's making sure that they can continue to help the smaller projects, give a great space for us to continue to innovate and create a new frontier and defend the new frontier. Is kind of how I see it. I love everything that everyone's doing, from Coinbase to Ripple to the Ethereum Foundation to Solana to everyone, really.
Yeah, I mean,
Filecoin, even for that matter.
It's looking to be a bright future, I think, for crypto, blockchain, DLT technology. And thank you so much for taking the time and doing the interview. I really do appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. It was really wonderful.
So, trailblazing the new frontier of cryptocurrencies, and Ripple, guys, Ripple and XRP paving the way. If you guys want to know more information about Jackal Labs, you can find them at jackallabs.io. So tell me what you think down in the comment section. I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.